Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Friday to you. I'm Josh with Korea China. And today is a quick live session. We wanted to answer a few questions that we've been getting here lately about bringing your pets to China. So we're going to address that. And so if you have any questions or anything during the live broadcast, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer. First, what is Korea China? If you're landing here, what is Korea China? Who's this guy? Korea China, we're a global firm that matches candidates with reputable companies in China. We have a global international staff, recruiters, in-house visa team, ground support to help you settle in, and a lot of other great services to help people adapt quickly to life in China. So, but let's jump into it. Can you bring your pets to China? Simple question, simple answer, sort of. Yes, you can. You will want to make sure that you contact your embassy in Beijing and Shanghai prior to arriving in China. Policies do change and can change quickly. So just make sure that, while you're doing your research on bringing your pet to China, make sure you contact your embassy just for any updated information that may be out there about bringing your pets. So that kind of leads to my tip: fly into Beijing or Shanghai. When you're coming to China, make sure that you're going to be arriving in one of these two airports with your pet. We recommend these major cities with airports. They have so many international travelers coming through and out. So they're used to handling, bringing in pets and stuff like that. So another, good reason to fly into Beijing or Shanghai is your embassy is going to be located there. More than likely, they're going to be in one of these two cities. So again, you're just going to want to check with your embassy to make sure that they're there and all that good stuff. So so you're going to want to fly into Beijing or Shanghai, to make sure that, you have a smooth process in bringing your pet to China. So let's dive into it a little bit more. Steps needed to bring your pet to China. Every country is a little bit different, so make sure, again, that you contact your embassy prior to arriving in China. What we're going to go over is a few basic steps. Really, these are the U.S. standards, but they kind of go along with all other countries as well. So there might be slight differences depending on what your country of origin and where you're coming from. But you're going to need these basic steps regardless. So really the first step is just to make sure you get proof of vaccination shots. They're full records of all the shots that your pet has had. Something also to consider, rabies shots. So your pet must be vaccinated for rabies within 1 year of entry into China. So if you have an older pet, if a pet is 3 months or younger, you don't need the rabies shot. But again, you're just going to want to make sure you have all your documentation, have copies, lots of copies. That way you could just have backup for your backups. Highly recommend making sure you have plenty of copies. Let's see, the next step would be to have the proper international health certificate. This document can be printed out online and filled out. So you're going to want to make sure you have it, prior to your arrival in China. Again, one thing to think about is it's one pet per traveler. So one traveler cannot bring two pets. But if you're traveling with a couple and you have two pets, then again, one pet per one traveler. And again, everything must match exactly right. So when you're filling out this health certificate, make sure that you have your full middle last name exactly how it's listed on your passport. You're going to want to just make sure all that is covered on your certificate. Also have copies. Again, make sure you have plenty of copies of all your documentation. Let's see, the next step is a color copy of your passport. So the pet owner, make sure that you have a color copy of your passport. with all your documentation as well. You're going to want to make sure on here you want to put as much info about where you're staying in China as well. Just the more info, the better. You know, this is your pet. This is your, you know, your family member. So you want to make sure that you have everything covered. So I would recommend on this copy to make sure you list out your information in China, where you'll be staying. If you have a new phone number or anything like that, just make sure you have your information on there. Let's see. The next step is a color photo of your pet. Make sure that it's easy to identify your pet with this photo. Again, you know, it could be a lot of pets coming in at one time. You never know. So just make sure that the color copy photo that you have can be easily used to identify your pet. So we'll make sure you have that, and again, have copies of everything. The next step, one that we're not fans of. You know, again, pets are like family members, so anytime that we're away from them, it's not easy. So when you're arriving in China, make sure that whoever you're working with, visa team, ground service, make sure that they notify the Chinese authorities of your arrival with your pet. Again, we can help you with that as well. There is a small fee that you'll have to have, so just make sure that you have Chinese yuan. The fee, from my research that I found, is roughly around $35 US. So again, you're going to want to make sure you have Chinese yuan when you arrive to cover this fee. Once you arrive in either Beijing or Shanghai, take all your documents and your fee over to Animal and Plant Quarantine Office. It's the CIQ. So look for this sign when you arrive in China. You can ask once you go through you know, customs and all that good stuff. So now let's talk about quarantine time. Quarantine time really will depend on where you're coming from, what country you're coming from. Each country has a little bit different time in quarantine. So let me break down a little bit of what I found for cats and dogs. So a minimum of 7 days quarantine are going to be from these countries: Australia, Hong Kong, Ireland, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. So that's a minimum of 7 days quarantine. Again, you're going to want to check with your embassy just to kind of make sure that your schedule and everything, your plans, are kind of, you know, based around this. For 30 days, it's going to be from countries from South Africa, Canada, and the United States. So pets entering China from the United States is going to require a minimum of 30 days of quarantine. Again, this can change, this can vary. So you just want to make sure to, again, check with your embassy on policies and everything like that. Let's see, next. Once you have everything, register your pet with your local police. Once you're going to have to register anyway once you arrive in China. So when you're registering, just make sure that you register your pet. Again, hopefully you have copies of all these documentations. Again, you're going to have copies of your documentation and things like that. So you're going to want to make sure that you register with the police as well. Let's see, other services. So there's other services out there. There's actually pet relocation services, and China's an option. I've never used any of these services, nor have I had any friends or anything like that use these services, but they are out there and they do exist. We recently wrote a blog post on this subject right here on our Career China blog. So I'll put that link below, and there's tons of links in there. So you can kind of do your own research if you want to go use the pet relocation services to, you know, help bring your pet into China. So we'll put that in there. There's lots of links in the blog post that we will put below. So it really kind of covers it. I mean, it's pretty quick and basic a little bit, you know. So if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask. We're here to help. We have an international staff of people that have taught in China, have lived in China, currently in China. So don't hesitate if you have any questions or anything like that. Also, make sure to follow and subscribe. We're going to be doing more of these Facebook Live sessions, and we'll have special guests on, current teachers in China, former teachers, you know, kind of like where's your life at now after China. And we'll talk about subjects about living in China and all that fun stuff. So make sure you follow and subscribe below. Also, we have hot jobs out there. So there's some really, really great jobs out there that can launch a career. So there'll be a hot jobs link below as well that I'll put in there. And again, any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. And yeah, take care.